back to the 12 Days of MLB rankings. Today I have for you first base. I'm going to be ranking the best first basemen from every single team, 1 through 31 I have on my list today. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the most previous one where I ranked all the catchers from every single team. So without further ado, let's get into it. Coming in for the number 31 spot, we have Trey Mancini from the Chicago Cubs. He was so bad this year, it even led to him being DFA'd by the Chicago Cubs right around the trade deadline. They got rid of him. He was horrible. Ever since the Cubs traded Anthony Rizzo, we have yet to find like a solution to our first base problems. Every single one of them is a fluke. I will say, the Cubs shared the position at first between Mancini, Hosmer, Jeimer Candelario after the trade deadline. Even Cody Bellinger played a fair share of games there, but I didn't feel right putting Bellinger at first base. I want to highlight him later in center. Anyways, Trey Mancini, he played like 70 games at first for the Cubs, hit 4 homers, 234 batting average, 28 RBIs, a 71 OPS plus, just horrible. So he's dead last on this list. Moving on to the number 30 spot, we have Rowdy Tellez from the Milwaukee Brewers. Another guy that was just plain disappointing this year. He usually doesn't hit for a high average, he's just like a power hitter. But even this year, he lost his power. Last year hitting 35 homers, to this year only hitting 13 and a 215 batting average. Only had an OPS plus of 82 in 105 games. There is another Milwaukee Brewers first baseman I will talk about later on in this video that the Brewers did trade for. Moving on to the number 29 spot, forgive me if I cannot pronounce his name right, but we have from the Colorado Rockies, Elhuris Montero. He played in just enough games to qualify for my video at 85. He had 11 homers with a 243 batting average, an 82 OPS plus. He's still like very below average. He played in the most games, but was not very good for them. Had a negative WAR. Just a not so good player on a not so good Rockies team. Moving on to the number 28 spot, we have Kansas City Royals first baseman Nick Pratto. He only played in 95 games this season, but that's more than half to qualify, in my own opinion. Also, for future reference, if you played at first base, you have to play more than 70 games for me to have put you on this list. Nick Pratto, not so much power. He matched last year's homers with 7 and only 35 RBIs, an OPS plus of 82, and he has a 40 strikeout percentage. Bro, that's one of the highest I have ever seen. He has 138 strikeouts and 345 at-bats. That's like almost half. That's horrible. Moving on to the number 27 spot, we have Minnesota Twins first baseman Alex Kirilloff. He played in 75 games this season, so like I said previously, just enough to qualify on my list. He's the first player that I could actually sit here and say, although he's ranked 27th, he actually wasn't horrible. He hit 11 homers with a 270 batting average, a 117 OPS plus. That's pretty good, right? Except the players ahead of him just beat him in certain categories. Alex Kirilloff did not get the main first baseman job for the Minnesota Twins. He did share with Donovan Solano, who will be further down on this list. Coming in at the number 26 spot, we have Houston Astros first baseman Jose Abreu. This may come as a surprise to some of you, just maybe. He started off 2023 so slow. I don't think he hit a homer until May or June. He was in one of the worst power slumps in such a long time to start his career off in Houston. A former MVP just in the 2020 season is a bottom 10 first baseman right now. He did have 18 homers, so for him not hitting a single homer till sometime in May to 18, that was definitely a nice bounce back. He had a 237 batting average with 90 RBIs, and I don't care what you say, although again he is at the 26th spot, he is an RBI machine. He could have 3 homers, but still probably 80 RBIs. But an OPS plus of only 87, overall just still disappointing for the Astros. Moving on to the number 25th spot. This may come as a surprise to some of you, but I have Jake Cronenworth from the San Diego Padres. Cronenworth, like a year or two ago, was looking like a elite second baseman. I believe that's the position he came up to be. But he got moved, of course, to first, and he's been trying to dominate that position. His power seemingly was pretty good the last 2 seasons, but this year, only hitting 10 homers with 48 RBIs and only a 229 batting average. And an OPS plus of only 92. He does have a strikeout percentage of 18, so we're looking better with the strikeout percentages. But overall, Jake Cronenworth, very disappointing. I felt bad to put him below the 20th spot because last season and the year before, where he was looking like a really solid player. Moving on to the number 24 spot, we have New York Yankees first baseman Anthony Rizzo. Now, as he is a former Cub, I absolutely hated to do this, but Rizzo is just getting older and he's slowly declining. It is very unfortunate this year. He did miss a lot of playing time due to injury and a concussion that occurred in May, and he didn't go on the injured list till at least August, I believe. So from May to when he was put on the injured list, he was just not playing good. He was playing, but not good because he was injured, and no one just understood why he wasn't playing well. Finally went on the injured list. I hope next year he could just bounce back. He is a 4-time Gold Glove defender. He did hit 12 homers this year with a .244 batting average and an OPS plus of 94. Decent numbers in 99 games. It's sad to see Rizzo start getting older, like it truly is as a Cubs fan, but this year just was not very good, and I have to put him where he is. Moving on to number 23. We have Dominic Smith from the Washington Nationals. Honestly, quite surprising to me, but Dom Smith hit 12 homers this year with 46 RBIs, with an OPS of 692 and an OPS plus of 92, and only a strikeout percentage of 15. Nothing much to talk about Dom Smith. He's really just been a very solid first baseman for the Nationals. Moving on to number 22, we have Garrett Cooper from the now San Diego Padres. He played for 2 teams in 2023, the Marlins and the Padres, and I'll tell you what, when I first had Garrett Cooper on this list, he was sitting at about 28. I looked at stats of every single player that was ahead of him, and he just kept rising on my list. But this season, he hit 17 homers with a .251 batting average and 61 RBIs, with an OPS plus of 96. Moving on to the number 21 spot, we have Seattle Mariners first baseman Ty France. I feel like there was a point in time Ty France was actually climbing the list to be one of the better first basemen in the league, but he kind of plateaued in my opinion. He did hit 12 homers this year with a .250 batting average and 58 RBIs, an OPS at 703, and an OPS plus of 99. He did play in 158 games though, so to me that catches my eye. When any player plays that much, I love to see it. Any fan loves to see it. Anywho, not much to highlight about Ty France. Moving on. Moving on to the top 20, at the number 20 spot, we have Minnesota Twins first baseman Donovan Solano. He is the second Minnesota Twin on this list. That's because Donovan Solano, again, of course, just had better numbers. Power, not there with only 5 homers, but a .282 batting average, 760 OPS, and an OPS plus of 110. Moving on to number 19, we have Ryan Noda from the Oakland Athletics. Ryan Noda, surprisingly, pretty solid for the Athletics. On a team that, you just didn't think anyone was good on that team this year. Ryan Noda had a 2.3 baseball reference WAR, hit 16 homers with a .229 batting average, a 770 OPS, and an OPS plus of 121. I think that's the highest we've seen so far. He was pretty good this year. So yeah, strikeouts are pretty high at 34%, but walks, very nice at 15%. Moving on to the number 18 spot, we have Chicago White Sox first baseman Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn had some power there this year. He hit 21 homers with a .258 batting average and 80 RBIs. He had a 743 OPS and an OPS plus of 101. He didn't really walk this season, only having 36 walks, which concluded to an only 5.9 walk percentage. So honestly, Andrew Vaughn, pretty good, pretty solid for the White Sox. Moving on to the San Francisco Giants at number 17. We have Lamont Wade Jr. Wade Jr. has a solid 2.7 baseball reference WAR, hitting 17 homers with a .256 batting average and a 790 OPS and OPS plus of 119. Walk percentage is pretty high at 14.6%. So yeah, Lamont Wade has been pretty solid for the Giants. Moving on to the number 16 spot, we have Baltimore Orioles first baseman Ryan O'Hearn. He shared time at the first base position with Ryan Mountcastle, who we will get to eventually. Ryan O'Hearn, pretty decent numbers if I say so myself. 14 homers with the .289 batting average and 60 RBIs. He actually has one of the highest OPS numbers we've seen so far at 801 and an OPS plus at 122. But every single year he is lowering his strikeout percentage. Last year it was 24, 2021 it was at 28%. Moving on to the top 15. At 15, we have Baltimore Orioles first baseman Ryan Mountcastle. I hated to do it. Put 2 teammates right next to each other, but I looked at these numbers for quite some time, and Ryan Mountcastle just stood out to me a lot more. Here's his numbers. You guys can compare yourself to. Ryan Mountcastle had a 2.1 WAR, 18 homers with a 270 batting average, and 68 RBIs, with a 779 OPS and an OPS plus of 117. But what got me here is he did walk way more. He struck out more, but that's because he played more. Mountcastle played 90 games at first base this year, while O'Hearn only played at 70. But I just thought Mountcastle was a little bit better than O'Hearn. Moving on to the number 14 spot, we have Milwaukee Brewers first baseman Carlos Santana. If you haven't noticed already, there is no Pittsburgh Pirate on this list because they don't have an official first baseman right now that I felt the need to include on this list. None that played more than like 35 games anyways. Carlos Santana played half the season with the Pirates, so I thought I would just go ahead and count him as well, who did in fact get traded to the Brewers. So he was the majority of the Pirates first baseman for most of the season, but is now a Brewer. Anywho, he hit 23 homers and a 240 batting average with 86 RBIs and an OPS plus of 103. I was actually really surprised to see that Carlos Santana doesn't strike out. He only had 104 strikeouts this season and 619 plate appearances. His strikeout percentage is only at a 15, which is one of the lower ones that we've seen so far. But Carlos Santana has been pretty solid for the Brewers. Moving on to the number 13 spot, we have Spencer Torkelson from the Detroit Tigers. Torkelson just had that pop in his bat this year, hitting 31 homers with a 233 batting average and 94 RBIs. He had an OPS plus of 105. He's a good player. He's got a lot of power. He drives in runners. He's pretty solid. Moving on to the number 12 spot, I have Alec Bohm from the Philadelphia Phillies. Now this may seem a little confusing. The Philadelphia Phillies did not have Rhys Hoskins this year, so Bohm took over at first base, but only for 80 games, which was half the season. But when Harper came back, he DH'd and then moved to first base towards the end of the season and only played 30 games there. So it didn't feel right to put Harper there. He'll be in my DH list, so Alec Bohm is. And he played 80 games, so like I said, he played like half the season. He's very worthy of being in this spot. But Alec Bohm being at number 12 had a pretty good year. I do just want to mention as well, he will be on my third base ranking video as well, as he did play 90 games there. Bohm hit 20 homers with a 274 batting average and 97 RBIs, and an OPS plus of 108. His fielding is about average. He doesn't have like the greatest arm. He makes some decent plays, like in the playoffs, he made some really good plays, but nothing all year round. His strikeout percentage is pretty low at only 15. When he first came up to the league, in 2021, he had a 26.6 strikeout percentage. Last year having 17, and this year 15, he's definitely improving. Overall, I'm a fan of Alec Bohm. I think he's fun to watch. I think he's a great Philly player. Moving on to number 11, we have Triston Casas from the Boston Red Sox. Triston Casas is quite impressive to me. He hit 24 homers this year with a 263 batting average and 65 RBIs. He had an 856 OPS and an OPS plus of 129. Walk percentage is up towards about 14, but strikeout percentage still a little bit high. Anyways, Triston Casas is a very good player for the Red Sox, and he's young, being only 23. So yeah, he's very good. Moving on to our top 10. These next 10 are absolutely stacked. Just be ready. Getting us started at number 10, we have Texas Ranger Nathaniel Lau. He did win a Gold Glove this year. He is an excellent fielder. He did hit 17 homers this year with a 262 batting average and an OPS plus of 111. He does walk a lot with 93 walks this season, and he played in 161 games this year, plus all through the playoffs leading to the World Series. He has a 12.9 walk percentage. Strikeout percentage is okay. Again, we've seen this number a lot. It's at 22%. Nate Lau is a very good ball player. Like I said, excels at fielding. Very, very good for the Rangers. Moving on to number 9, we have Spencer Steer from the Cincinnati Reds. Spencer Steer, being a rookie, had really impressive numbers, okay? He hit 23 homers this year with a 271 batting average and 86 RBIs, an OPS plus of 119, and an OPS of 820. And he came in 6th in Rookie of the Year voting. Moving on to number 8. This may come as quite a surprise to some of you, but I have Cleveland Guardians first baseman Josh Naylor. Now, he did suffer a bit of an injury this year, but he still played in 121 games. Naylor surprised me absolutely so much this year. He hit 17 homers this year, but he consistently hit a .308 batting average, along with 97 RBIs. He had an OPS of 842 and an OPS plus of 133. And one other thing that I love to top off, he does not strike out, okay? He has a 13.7 strikeout percentage. He's definitely improved a lot over the years, but he's always never been a big strikeout guy. And he is an excellent fielder. He has a very above average fielding run value according to Baseball Savant. Anyways, Josh Naylor is just a very good player all around, and there are rumors he might be traded this offseason, so we'll just have to see. Moving on to number 7, and may I just let you know, the next 7 are the absolutely most stacked players, okay? That makes Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at number 7. Of course, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. just had a phenomenal year with 26 homers and a .264 batting average and 94 RBIs, 788 OPS, and an OPS plus of 117. He was an all-star this year while playing in 156 games. Since coming up in 2019, he has played in no less than, let me do the math real quick, 8 games in a season. Meant to say he missed no less than 8 games in a season. Even the 2020 year, he played in all 60. He doesn't get injured. He stays healthy. He plays. This year was his lowest year in games, and he still played in 156 of them. But Vladimir Guerrero, he really didn't strike out that much this year, and his walks were about average, I'd say. Yeah, a 14.7 strikeout percentage, which is, I love to see it. And, you know, you can't forget, he won the Home Run Derby this year, so he's just a power hitter. Moving on to the number 6 spot, we have Big Meat Pete Alonso. All right, Pete Alonso still being at number 6. Pete Alonso had a 3.2 Baseball Reference WAR. He hit, just listen, 46 homers. He was just behind Matt Olson, who led the entire major leagues. But Pete Alonso was still a whopping 46, a .217 batting average, but you get the homers. But Pete Alonso, he just isn't that much of a contact hitter. He's pure power, but also very clutch with 118 RBIs, a .504 slug, an .821 OPS, and an OPS plus of 122. He did play in 154 games this year. Like Vlad Guerrero, since being called up, he has not missed more than 10 games in a season. He stays healthy, which you love to see. He's only 28, and this is only his 5th year in the majors, and he already has almost 200 career homers. On to the top 5. Getting it started for us, we have Christian Walker from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Christian Walker being higher up on this list than Alonso and Guerrero says something. 1, his fielding is impeccable. He won his 2nd Gold Glove this season. But let's get into the hitting numbers. He had a 3.8 WAR, 33 homers with a .258 batting average and 103 RBIs with an .830 OPS and an OPS plus of 123. Also making it to the World Series with his Diamondbacks team. Like, if you can't tell already, we're really getting to those players that are just the best first baseman. Christian Walker is top 5 this year. Let's just move on. Just know he's very good. Moving on to number 4, we have Paul Goldschmidt from the St. Louis Cardinals. Goldschmidt winning MVP last season. Obviously, it would have been very hard to repeat those MVP numbers of 2022, but no doubt that he still put up a very great campaign. He hit 25 homers this year with a .268 batting average and 80 RBIs. He had an .810 OPS and an OPS plus of 120. Walk percentage at 12.7, strikeout percentage at 23. So, a little bit up there. But Paul Goldschmidt, being 35, is still putting up, I mean, guys, insane numbers. I mean, like I said, he already won MVP just last season, the first of his career. Like I said already, he was just amazing this year. Moving on to the top 3, we have Yandy Diaz from the Tampa Bay Rays. Yandy Diaz, absolutely breakout season this year. He was an all-star for the very first time. He won his very first batting title and Silver Slugger this season, and coming in 6th in MVP voting. Let's dive a little bit deeper into these numbers. He had a 5.2 WAR, 22 homers, hitting a 330 batting average, guys. Wow. 78 RBIs with 95 runs. I like to see that. Almost 100 runs. A 522 slug, a 932 OPS, and an OPS plus of 158. I don't know if you heard that, but I just grabbed the arms of my chair. Insane numbers. Like, honestly, like video game numbers. And he doesn't strike out. He has a 15.7 strikeout percentage, a walk percentage at 10. I mean, Yandy Diaz, breakout year. Like, literally breakout season. I mean, Yandy Diaz is just elite. Let's move on to the last and final two. And getting it started at number 2, we have Atlanta Braves first baseman Matt Olson. I'm sure you guys already know who the top 2 were going to be, but Matt Olson, sitting at the number 2 spot, absolutely an insane year. He had a 7.4 WAR, hitting a major league leading 54 homers with a 283 batting average. So, like the Pete Alonso comment I made just a little bit ago, Matt Olson hits not only for power, but for contact. He gets on base, he scores runs, scoring 127 of them. You can argue Ronald Acuna Jr. Of course, he won MVP on the Braves. But Matt Olson was probably the single-handedly most helpful player on that team or in that division, with both 139 RBIs and 127 runs. It's pretty rare you see a player put up huge numbers on both those levels. But Matt Olson also had a 604 slug, a 993 OPS, and an OPS plus of 162. I mean, God, I cannot stress this enough. Insane. He was an all-star this year. He won a Silver Slugger. He played in 162 games, matching last year's, which is, again, very, very impressive. He led the majors in homers and RBIs, and tied for the most games played. Also led the National League in slugging percentage. I mean, I could go on and on about Matt Olson. He's one of my favorite players to watch. Moving on to the last and final player on this list, at number 1, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman is literally the GOAT. He had a 6.5 WAR this season while hitting 29 homers and a 331 batting average, 131 runs, 102 RBIs, a career high 23 stolen bases, a 567 slug, a 976 OPS, and an OPS plus of 161. He got his 7th All-Star appearance this year and came in 3rd in MVP voting. Freddie Freeman also playing in 161 games this year. I mean, who knew? A former Brave and a current active Brave, both being the number 1 and 2 spots on the first baseman rankings. The Braves have a tie, but Freddie Freeman, he's one of my favorite players just in baseball, on and off the field. I can go on and on about him. He's definitely going to win another MVP at some point in his career. He is 33, but I see Freddie Freeman only getting better with age. Since after the 2019 season, he has not had a batting average under 300. I can go on and on about Freeman forever. But this is the end of the video. Freddie Freeman has been the best first baseman in the league for so long now. He's only getting better with age. He had over 200 hits this year. Let's just go ahead and be done with the video because I can go on, and I know you guys don't have time for that. Okay, so we are finally done with the first base rankings for the 12 days of MLB rankings. I knew I was going to be talking about the top 5 first basemen for a minute. So that's why I tried to make all the other ones in the beginning of the video very short and compact. I just wanted to express to you guys how good these players are towards the top 10, top 5, top 3. I really hope you guys are enjoying the 12 days of MLB rankings so far. If you didn't watch the most previous one, which was catcher ranking, I did not come up with this idea. Another YouTuber called DraftNeckMark started this in 2019. And I started watching them that year. I've always been a huge fan. For me, as a baseball lover, and I love Christmas, it ties my 2 favorite things in. So I just took inspiration from that. So I give full credit to DraftNeckMark. Just had to give another quick shout out to him. If you haven't already checked out his channel, it's called DraftNeckMark. Go watch his videos. Check back tomorrow for second base rankings, and the day after that for third base, and so on. Anyways, I will see you guys in the next one. Please make sure to like and subscribe because these videos do take a little bit more time and effort with making the list, filming, and editing. So any like, subscribe, comment, everything means the world to me. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one, tomorrow. Peace.